365 Sports as we continue this early part of the 3 o'clock hour. There he is, our great friend, Lance Leipold, head coach at KU. We got to know him quite a bit at Media Days in Vegas and since then as well. And he joins us on 365 Sports. Thank you for your time. Good to see you. What was your message to your team when you entered the offseason?
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you again. Appreciate the opportunity. Always enjoy my time with you guys. But,
Thank you.
Obviously we didn't finish the season as strong as to what we'd like to. We were playing well and then ran into a very good Baylor team down in Waco, and they got after us that last game. We had 39 seniors and we had a lot of players that help us kind of turn this thing around and put us on a good path. And yet there was going to be a lot of openings for our younger players. But at the same time, we had to get back to basics and some of the things that got us to where we were. And we were going to have to look into the portal and do some things to get us better and really kind of get back to increasing our internal competition daily in our program. And I think we've been able to do that this spring.
What has changed for you with spring, if anything, in the new world of college football? Or do you still do it the same way and just have to adapt to the chaos?
Well, I'd like to say for the most part, guys, that we're trying to do it the way we have been doing it. We're a high rep team when it comes to what we try to do. We keep guys moving all the time on the field. We want to, try to get our younger guys as many reps as we can. But all in all, though, you got to look at the numbers available to you, the healthier football team. I think always you're still walking that line of making sure that you can retain your roster and do those things. So, but I don't think at this point, I think maybe a year from now, depending on what happens here in the near future about our roster limits, as that looks to be maybe on a slight adjustment or pause, that if we can keep our numbers up at a better rate, we can continue to move as we have in the past.
I saw the other day where you commented on kind of the topic of the spring, which was the crossover possibilities that it really started with Dion and Fran Brown, discussing that publicly. And you pointed out that there are some downsides to it in your mind, or at least some things that need to be looked at. For those that maybe didn't catch those comments, can you explain why you like the idea or maybe in favor, but why there's also some things that you had some questions about in terms of crossover spring scrimmages and the like?
Well, I think when we've had these kind of talks in the past, I think one of the things you talk about across the country, if somebody's going to do it, more than likely we're all going to follow in some way, shape, or form. I think that one of the concerns a few years back that I heard coaches talk about is, let's face it, every year there's coaches that have very important years for their team to be successful in order to remain at that school and to keep the staff there. Sometimes depending on who you would schedule and how that's viewed by your fans and boosters, then all of a sudden you get more into the competitive mode of having a good showing and showing your fan base that you're doing things in the right way, you're trending in the right direction, and you really might lose sight of what the purpose of it is, and that's for continued practice and evaluation and development. And I think that could be a factor. Though we continue to work in many different ways of what's happening in the future of rev share, there's still you see it continually. Athletic departments have to reevaluate in many parts about budgets and things like that. And for us, I don't know if it's going to be profitable for across the board for a lot of us to do that, and what's the limitations on travel and things like that. Because now, guys, if you're going to visit, if you're the road team in this, and I think right now we got 100 players going. We travel with a travel squad of 70 right now. Now all of a sudden you're taking 30 more guys, and if you're going to do multiple days and stays, and I know one thing that came out of COVID is that hotels and motels make sure that they're recouping money in their food and things like that, because it's amazing what you have to pay to feed your football team on the road these days.
Coach, is the transfer portal more giveth or taketh away?
For the Kansas Jayhawks?
Well, I mean, yes, in your opinion, for what you've experienced.
Well, right now, guys, we've probably been in a good spot of roster retaining. A national writer let us know after the first portal window of this year that over the last 2 years we've had the fewest scholarship players enter the portal at the Power Four level. So right now, retention's been good to us, and like I said earlier, we had 39 seniors, including some walk-ons, leave our program, but. I know there's programs that get decimated off of this sometimes. I do think there's, we saw in the college football playoff, we saw it in the Big 12 conference, a school like Arizona State and what everybody thought they were going to be preseason and what kind of year they had and how far they went. You look at Indiana, there's probably some other schools. You can get yourself in a pretty competitive spot here quicker than ever through the portal. I do think there's some good benefits to it. I do think there's good with rev share. I just think we need to get a few more parameters in this that we can continue to retain rosters and develop players. What I haven't heard a story yet, so maybe I'd be criticized for saying it, but what's going to be the year when you're going to hear about a team that wasn't able to replace certain players and there's a huge deficit at a position that really puts them at a huge detriment, maybe in the line or defensive line, things like that. I just hope that we can continue on the path that's created the competitive balance that we see today.
You mentioned you lost 39 seniors and you had I guess 22 come in the portal. And your strategy is often with portal guys, you want veteran guys, don't you? If you're gonna come in, you kind of want them to be starting or close to starting, right? You're not much in the potential on that.
Well, we're looking for the best fit all the time. I think the most of the time that our philosophy is, we want to be able to recruit high school student athletes to be developed within the program, and where there's gaps in our I guess our roster board, our scholarship board, by class or where we feel we need to get an improvement, then we're going to look for that more experienced player. I would imagine that that's probably a consistent thought across the country. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would say this though, in those guys that you mentioned, we did take a few guys that became available that we feel are a little bit more on the developmental side and are probably going to trend towards a redshirt year in our program, but we feel they're going to be fine additions, and we decided to take them. So, but again, I look at it this way, guys, and I don't know how you all feel, but why does a guy leave school? There's what's happened. It's usually over playing time or something. So if he's not looking to come into a situation where a position's stockpiled, so you're trying to bring in guys to create competition. You don't promise, we don't promise playing time. We promise opportunity, and we want guys to come in here and maximize that.
You are introducing some new coordinators, made some changes this offseason. And is there an exact science to kind of just the evolution of a coaching staff and introducing new people and kind of, bringing them in? Are you hands off? Like, just kind of how do you operate in terms of spring ball and kind of, seeing the chemistry and how it all works together?
I think for us, for me, it's been big on trust and knowing the individual and watch what he's going to do and having the conversation. Now, both our coordinators were on the staff last year, were internal promotions. Offensively, Jim Zabrowski was our co-offensive coordinator. He's been our quarterback coach. He actually was the first offensive coordinator I ever hired as a head coach at Wisconsin Whitewater. He then moved on with Jerry Kill to Northern Illinois and Minnesota, rejoined us in Buffalo, and has been with me now for, what are we on, about eight, nine consecutive years already. So Jim called our bowl game after Andy Kolnicki left a year ago when we played in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl against UNLV. Did a great job. We were very explosive in that game. And Jim knows what I expect and what we're going through. And then we were able to bring Matt Lubick back into the staff, who'd been an analyst for us and really was a great contributor behind the scenes in our early years. So, very, very comfortable with where that went, and obviously working with DK McDonald had just joined us a year ago from the Philadelphia Eagles. He spent quite a bit of time with Matt Campbell at Iowa State and Toledo. It was very apparent to me that that DK, he's had opportunities to interview for coordinator jobs. His demeanor, his approach, his attention to detail, all those things were highly impressive. When Brian Borland has decided to retire, Brian and I had been together for 18 years. And I probably wouldn't be in this chair if it wasn't for Brian, and he decided to hang it up and spend more time with his family. So I'm very excited about what they bring and the subtle changes as we go through it. But I try to give coaching latitude within the framework of the baseline of expectations of our program and insert my comments when needed.
Lance, you're wrapping up spring this week. I believe you have your 14th and 15th practices. You always hear this, did you accomplish everything? I don't know if that's ever possible, but do you feel good about when you entered and where you are now with just 2 more practices, or is there ever enough time to be satisfied?
Guys, I know what you think, but sometimes spring ball interview questions are much like signing day press conference.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
We addressed everything we need to. We got all that.
I love it.
And I just made that up as you were asking the question. But I'll say this is, you mentioned the new guys. We also had 6 early enrollees. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of newness, and you mentioned the coordinators. So I am extremely pleased and probably surprisingly, I think we're ahead in some of the aspects that I thought about instilling really what we expect, how we go about it, our effort level, our strength. Now, do we got a lot to work on yet before we open up with Fresno State in week 0? Yes, we do. But I think we got a little clearer picture on where we're going, what we have to do. Jaylen Daniels has not participated in team activities as far as any stuff. He's on the field more and more now for us. So we've got a lot to catch up on in fall camp once again. But I do like what we've been able to accomplish, and we need to maximize these last 2 practices.
You guys did not get to play an actual home game last year. You were all over the place. We talked to Devin Neal at Big 12 Pro Days, and he said it was just kind of an odd thing. Like, everybody dealt with it. It was how it was, but it's just weird. What's it going to be like to have that monkey off your back this year and just be able to, when you play a home game, go eat a cheeseburger in Lawrence and not somewhere else?
A cheeseburger.
Right. Well, we might have to go to cheeseburgers after I mention those hotel prices. Right? You don't really know what it's distracting when you're in the middle of it, I guess. So, as we went through last year, I will not use it as an excuse for any outcomes last year. Our players never used it. It was, I think, Devin's such a perceptive young man. It was just different. And to think it might have had some effect, I probably didn't. Our players were so resilient in what we were doing. I didn't have guys in my office complaining and doing that. But when I really looked at a lot of the displacement of things that we did, our grass practice field on campus is something we have to bust to. So playing on grass, all our home games, we tried to practice on grass a lot more. Just a lot of small logistical things probably broke some of our rhythm and continuity, especially with such an experienced team. And to be back here and have this new stadium underway and another phase yet to go, I think is going to truly be exciting when we've just been able to move into our new team meeting room. We've got a new walkthrough room and some other things. And every little piece that gets finished that our guys get a chance to see and use every day, our guys get more excited about the opportunity.
We had, as Paul mentioned, Devin on, and of course you got Mello and Bryce and Logan and Kobe, who all probably get drafted. Is there anything better than a marketing campaign when you have that many players that are going to get drafted later on this month?
Yeah, it's exciting. You mentioned those guys, Logan Brown, Bryce Cable, who's a guy between his East-West Shrine experience and his day down in Dallas to on the pro day was something that I think he continues to increase his chances to be drafted. Devin, of course, and then the two corners. It's going to be exciting. I think when you stockpile some of our success over the last few years, you look at the stadium, we've been able to finally have some things that we can hang our hat on in recruiting. I think we're off to a really good start in the 26 class. And I think as we've been able to show people that this can be a program and one that can sustain winning for a long time here.
What do you do to relax? Do you have time to relax? Is it like the summer? Do you get a week to go to Cabo? What do you do?
Yeah, I've heard down in Texas, some of those guys go to Cabo is what I hear. But, my wife and I, we try to get away. We do have a place in Florida we get to. Last year, we celebrated our 25th anniversary and went to Italy. The first time we've done something like that, and we have another trip planned for early July as well this year. So we do try. I don't have a lot of hobbies. I probably need to in life somewhere and along to pick up some, but as you know, this thing never really stops. So you got to stay on top of things.
My last question for you, if you don't mind. Jaylen, of course, missed time last spring, and then you got him into the season, and it took a little while to get warmed up, and he's missed some this spring, more just to keep him tweaked and healthy. Did you learn how you handled him last year, entering what you're going to do this year?
Yeah, different scenarios, and the unfortunate part of some of his career has been that way. But I think Jaylen's got a better grasp on it as well, what he's got to do. I do think there's some things that we transitioned staff-wise, like we talked about, that never got him in rhythm. Two of the receivers never were fully. We didn't have the whole receiving crew practicing when Jaylen was finally practicing until 10 days before the first game. And I think some of that really, it showed itself there, unfortunately. The kid never wavered, though. He's highly positive. And the thing that doesn't get talked about enough here is that he did play all 12 games for us last year. And I think he's more than determined to show that he's ready to have his best year yet. And I know he'll be ready to go when it's time to kick it off.
We will see you in Frisco. We do appreciate your access to us. It's great to have you on, Lance. Thanks for your time, Coach. Have a great rest of the week and into the summer.
Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. This is one of the more fun ones I like doing. So anytime, and I look forward to seeing you in Frisco as well. Have a great summer up until I see you, okay?
Yes, sir. Lance Leipold, head coach at Kansas. They wrap up spring. They have their 14th and 15th practices this week.